Welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Thursday, November the 14th, 2024. It's World Diabetes Day, established back in 1991 by the International Diabetes Federation and the World Health Organization to address the increasing number of cases back then and raise awareness of the health issues resulting from diabetes, which significantly raises the risk of heart attack, stroke, and other major health issues. Trust me, my family was in the bakery business. I know how difficult it is, but you have to cut back on the sugar. No, I'm not a doctor. Today is also National Pickle Day. And again, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure you can eat as many pickles as you want, within reason. Speaking of eating, by the way, 2 weeks from today, Thanksgiving Day, one of the best days of the year. 26 days after that, Christmas Day, the best day of the year. And there is so much news. I mean, strap in. It's going to be a long walk or drive or whatever you're doing. First, Republicans have officially retained control of the House, and Speaker Johnson has retained the speakership. We had a vote for new leadership in the Senate. I'll get to that. Former president, now President-elect Donald Trump, is moving so quickly on building his new administration, the news can't even keep up with it. By the time they start pushing back or coming up with reasons why that person was not a good pick, Trump names 2 more people. So let's jump right into that. Then we'll go to the Oval Office sit down that was seen and heard around the world. And yesterday I told you I'd play some of Greta Van Susteren's interview with her old friend Mike Tyson. Who knew? And Danica Patrick was on Finnerty last night. First, Greg Kelly.
The hits keep rolling. I am loving the appointments. I really am. This is amazing. This is the stuff that we want. We want to blow up the system, don't we? I love our Constitution, but I can't stand the government. It is so big and out of control and corrupt. And these are the people who I think can help President Trump fix the whole thing. Let's go through some of the highlights from today. Let's see here. Marco Rubio will be the next Secretary of State pending confirmation. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. That's also a bold move, and I like it. Let's see who else is on the list. Congressman Matt Gaetz will be the Attorney General. And Matt Gaetz is not fooling around. He actually just announced, everybody, his resignation from Congress, effective immediately. He is no longer a congressman. Also, an inspired pick. I like this. I like Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel and Tulsi Gabbard, National Intelligence Director. I'm not disappointed. Let's put them all up. There are a lot over the past couple of days, and they're all interesting, innovative choices. I want to start with Matt Gaetz, though. Matt Gaetz is a special guy. He's incredibly smart, eloquent, bold, unafraid. And he's also the occasional fill-in host on this program. No kidding. He comes by and he hosts Greg Kelly's show. He's done it about 3 or 4 times, and I am so honored that we gave him his start, didn't we? No. Matt Gaetz flattered us with his services here at Newsmax, and he is unafraid, and he knows his stuff when he takes on the swamp. Let's see. Who do we have here? I think this would be the FBI director, noted snake, who should put in his papers right away. Watch what happens.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
Absolutely, and about the Bureau, the FBI. And if he's Attorney General, the FBI will report to Matt Gaetz. Isn't that something? Next, please.
Don't you see that that's kind of the thing, Director Wray, that you preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history? People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are. And the reason is because you don't give straight answers. You give answers that later a court deems aren't true. And then at the end of the day, you won't criticize an obvious shakedown when it's directly in front of us. And it appears as though you're whitewashing the conduct of corrupt people.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
We're deeply proud of them, and they deserve better than you.
Isn't that awesome?
Greg Kelly reports at 9 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. And as Greg mentioned, Matt Gaetz resigned from his House position immediately. Trump also named Florida Congressman Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor. So that's 2 congressional seats in the state of Florida. New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as UN Ambassador. There is some concern about all the Republicans being plucked from Congress, and there is concern about Matt Gaetz, who has been under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for accusations brought against him a few years ago. And a report on that investigation was due to come out soon because there's some rule that they can't put out those kinds of reports during elections. So that is something you'll be hearing a lot about today and moving forward for sure. But let's take a look at Matt Gaetz. He's 42 years old. Like almost everybody else that Trump is picking, he is definitely building the coalition for the future. Matt Gaetz graduated from Florida State University, got his law degree from William and Mary Law School, and has been in Congress since 2017. Gaetz' appointment and others will have to be approved by the Senate. Let's cross the hill over to the Senate. You heard a lot of talk about the election being a mandate, right? Donald Trump won the Electoral College vote, the popular vote. The Republican Party won the Senate and the House. The people have mandated action, and the Republicans better not screw it up like they did in 2016. Every conservative pundit and host of TV, radio, and podcasts have said something like that over the last week, right? Yesterday, with the very first order of business at hand, Senate Republicans nominated the one senator out of the 3 who has supported Donald Trump the least. This is Chris Salcedo and former special assistant to President Trump, Mark Lauder.
Let's talk about this Senate leadership vote. Senator John Thune will now replace Mitch McConnell as majority leader. According to Thune's own very public statements, he's not a big supporter of President Trump. Listen.
If Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, would you support him?
Well, I'm hoping, Leanne, to have other options. And I think we're going to have a robust primary process. So, that is a hypothetical, and I know everybody says, well, it's a cop-out. You don't want to answer that question. But it truly is, at this point, very preliminary. And I guess what I would tell you is I hope we have other options, and I think we will.
I think people in this country are ready for generational change, and I think a change in tone in our politics. There's an exhaustion factor. There's a fatigue factor with the American people, and always a lot of drama around the former president.
Now, Mark, we all remember Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell systematically working to undermine President Trump back in 2016, keeping Democrats in the game so they could unleash hell on this country. What level of concern exists with you about Senator Thune?
Well, the big difference, I think, between now and then is the majority of the American people. That not only did Donald Trump achieve a historic victory in the Electoral College, he also has a majority in the of the popular vote. And Senator Thune will have to be on the mind to look out for folks like Liz Cheney, Jeff Flake, so many others, because if he's going to go to the voters in his home state, which is overwhelmingly red, and he doesn't have a record of supporting Donald Trump, you can bet he will end up on the retirement track, just like all of those other so-called Republicans who couldn't get on board with Donald Trump. I don't think Senator Thune would do that. I think he knows this is the mandate of the people, and he's going to be seen getting on board that train rather than getting under it.
Again, that is Mark Lauder, who worked separately for both President Trump and then Vice President Pence. So, South Dakota Senator John Thune was hoping there would be other options to Trump as the nominee, which he has said, or had said, in several different interviews. He is the guy that Republicans in the Senate just voted to replace Mitch McConnell, who disrupted the apple cart in Trump's first presidency. Rick Scott, who seemed like Trump's biggest ally of the three, actually got the least amount of votes. Chris and Mark also discussed President-elect Donald Trump's big meeting with President Biden in the Oval Office yesterday.
President Trump and Biden met for nearly 2 hours in the Oval Office. Biden spent the entire campaign laughingly warning the country about the threat President Trump posed to democracy. And yet, surprisingly, that didn't come up in their meeting today. I was hoping that Trump just might have leaned over and asked Biden if he actually voted for Trump rather than Kamala, after the way the Democrats threw Biden under the bus, you know. But Joe Biden was virtually beaming today. What was your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it was great to see that the transition is moving forward and that Joe Biden is committed to doing a smooth transition with the incoming Trump team. But ultimately, you know, this is part of Joe Biden's legacy. He's trying to rebuild his legacy. So obviously, the fact that the majority of the American people, an overwhelming majority of the American people, voted for Donald Trump, the America First agenda, it's best for Joe Biden, who's trying to repair his damaged legacy, to at least look like he's on the side of the winning team after the fact.
Well, yes, and let's not forget that Barack Obama also pledged a smooth transition while Barack Obama and some other bad actors were planning that hoax, Crossfire Hurricane.
Operation Crossfire Hurricane, you recall, was the code name for the counterintelligence investigation of the FBI into alleged links between Donald Trump's presidential campaign and Russia back in 2016 and 2017. This is Newsmax's Bianca de la Garza with former White House advisor and host of the Gorka Reality Check on Newsmax, Sebastian Gorka.
Politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
You're welcome.
Looking at this sort of reaction with Joe Biden, and, you know, I feel like there's such a page and such an opportunity for America when you see this, the graciousness of Donald Trump as well.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I could do that. The man sitting on the right tried to put the man sitting on the left in prison, sent his number 3 from the DOJ to New York to work for Alvin Bragg. The magnanimity, the grace of President Trump really boggles the mind. And I'm a bit confused, Bianca. How come Joe Biden's shaking the hand of a fascist who's a threat to democracy? I'm a little confused.
I am too. I know. And all these people that supported him were just garbage. And he actually stoops to the level of letting us in.
Sebastian Gorka with Bianca de la Garza, who also spoke with body language expert Tanya Ryman about the brief encounter between the two presidents that we were able to see and hear.
So we are only allowed, you know, the first few minutes, Tanya, and then it goes into, you know, the pool cameras get pushed out. I can only imagine, we're not a fly on the wall, but from what you see here, what do you tell us about this interaction?
Well, the initial interaction was interesting. Of course, Biden, being the person who is, quote unquote, in his home, extends his hand first, so you expect that. Trump, however, still kind of lets Biden extend all the way in a sense of superiority. So Biden has to extend his arm all the way instead of, you know, the two of them meeting in the middle. So there's kind of like a dual action fight going on there, but it's very under the lines.
Yeah, and you know, Donald Trump once lived at the White House too, so he's not in completely unfamiliar territory. Do you see anything about his demeanor? He's obviously a larger-than-life character. Joe Biden obviously has cognitive issues. We're coming, you know, into play with a lot of this, the debate. You know, but you see Donald Trump there. Is there a sense of sort of an olive branch, sort of you know, the way he's reacting to Joe Biden, someone he beat, and obviously this debate pushed him out of the race there, effectively ending his career in politics.
Right. Yeah. So interestingly enough, so when the handshake is initiated, Trump actually takes his other arm and goes around his body, which is kind of like a self-hug. So you think, oh, that's insecurity. Yet, at the same time, once the handshake is finished, you see Trump is kind of doing a steeple position, but his fingers are fidgeting, again, insecurity. And Biden, you notice he puts his hands on his knees. So you think, oh my goodness, he feels good. He's powerful. He's open. But if you watch him, he also rubs his hands down his knees, which is also a sign of self-soothing. So I think both of these men, this was a horrible interaction for both of them, even though the average person, they look comfortable. There was an enormous amount of discomfort.
Fascinating.
That hug? You see that hug? So there's an enormous amount of discomfort between the two of them. And you're right. They've both been residents of this house, but at the same time, they both feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable and really more awkward than anything else, right? That's body language expert Tanya Ryman on Newsmax. Yesterday, I mentioned Greta Van Susteren's interview with boxer Mike Tyson, who at 58 years old will take on YouTube star turned boxer Jake Paul, who is 30 years his younger. And I'm going to start out with a cut that stuck out to me during the interview.
When you and I have talked, we've met, I've been to your house in Vegas, and we've sat down, and you've been like an encyclopedia on boxing. It's just amazing how you lay out the boxing history to me.
Okay, so Greta was at Mike Tyson's house in Las Vegas, sitting down talking boxing. Am I the only one amused by this? Like, what were the circumstances that led up to that? And here's more from the interview.
Well, he's bigger than you. He has a bigger reach. I think 76-inch reach compared to your 71. How do you overcome that difference?
Listen, I fought guys bigger than him my whole career. So it's not going to, listen, this is not going to help him be successful at all, no. Well, I was born to do this. That's why I was born to do this stuff. That's why at 58 I could come fight and make it the biggest event in the world. I was born to do this. I don't need the money. This money's not going to change my life. It's just that I want to be the center of attention. I want the world to be talking about me like they are now.
Well, you know,
I want people to want me to be interviewed like you want me to be interviewed. This is what I want.
But every time Mike Tyson boxes, that's all anybody talks about. You create so much buzz in the boxing world. And so I'm trying to think, like, why is it that when Mike Tyson boxes, we're all talking about it? People who might not otherwise be, fans of boxing, they're talking about Mike Tyson's boxing this week.
I'm the greatest fighter since the beginning of life. I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. It's just that I'm the most celebrated fighter in the history of life. And that's why people want to come see me.
Who would you have liked to have boxed? I mean, who sort of, would have been fun for you to box, but you didn't get a chance to?
If anybody I wanted to box, it'd be myself.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, that's my wish.
So how do you get mentally up for this this match this weekend?
It just happens. It just happens. Like a week before the fight, it just gets there. Boom, it's there. I can't even explain it. I can't describe it. Of course I get nervous. Yes, I'm very nervous, but that's part of who I am.
Do you think Jake Paul's nervous? You think Jake Paul's nervous?
I don't know anything about. I don't care about what he is. That doesn't matter to me. Anything about Jake Paul, what he is.
But
what he
is there nothing
a sacrificial lamb.
But is there nothing to sort of psyching him out, or like he's your opponent? I mean, it's not. It's one thing to be in the boxing part, but don't you have to sort of psych him out, make him nervous, make him fear you, so that
I'm a psych him out by smashing his face. I'm not a predictor. I'm not no magician. I'm not a psychic, but I'm going to be victorious.
Mike Tyson on the record with Greta. He's nervous, but he'll get psyched up when he smashes in Jake Paul's face. Did you hear him say that? He also said he doesn't need the money. He just wants all the attention, but he stands to make somewhere around $20 million. That fight is tomorrow night. Jake Paul, who I'm pretty sure put the whole thing together with his promotion people, is going to make even more than that. Back at the Open, I mentioned Rob Finnerty spoke with former race car driver Danica Patrick about her recent infinity for politics.
Danica Patrick is with us now. Danica, so good to see you.
Thank you. It's very good to see you, too.
So I'm wondering, what do you think kept you from voting all those years?
Well, I mean, in sports, it's just an environment where there's two things that you're not really supposed to talk about, and that's politics and religion. So I just didn't get interested in it. I just went through a phase where I was working really hard, and then I didn't watch the news for a long time. And I really kind of thought to myself that if I didn't participate in the drama and everything that went on in the world, maybe then my reality would be that of one that wouldn't let it exist. Like, as if I didn't pay attention, it wasn't there. And then I did something so simple as you showed. I posted those pictures and said, I love this country. And I was attacked for it and judged for it. And that was literally the turning point. At a Turning Point event, that was the turning point. I just thought it was so absurd that we can't say that. And, you know, I think back to being a kid. I think back to being a teenager. And I had this really cool leather jacket that had American flag on the back, USA down the arm. I've always loved the American flag. And if I walked the streets in that jacket today, I would be looked at funny and people would know I'm a Republican. And I just think until things like that, or Make America Great Again, are things that stand for being American as opposed to Republican, I feel like the work just isn't done. So last December, that fire was ignited, and I was finally motivated to participate and count my vote.
I totally agree with that. Make America Great Again should not be controversial in any way. For the last 8 years, MAGA has somehow been a bad word in this country. Do you think that last Tuesday changed that in any real way?
I mean, I think to some degree, although I did see a very funny video on social media where there was somebody that walked down the street in New York with Make America Great hat again. And mostly the women sort of gave this guy a bad look. And so obviously it's not totally cleaned up. Right. But I think that these obviously the next 4 years, but I really think there's going to be major swings that happen in this next sort of 6 to 12 months. I think the tides are going to shift a lot. I do think people are even waking up, even as we've seen sort of since the election was over with, and just the way that everything's gone, and everything that continues to get exposed. And that's just it. We're not done. Like, there's going to continue to be things that come out that are going to teach people just about how sort of corrupt and how much the swamp was not drained. And I think even more people will get on board. And also over time, people are going to see their bank accounts more full. They're going to see prices of things go down. Hopefully houses become more accessible for people. And just generally the comfort of living will come back to them. And even if it wasn't what you thought would be the right direction, I think that in some amount of time here, some short amount of time, I think that people will come around to realizing that it's okay. In fact, it's going to be great. Make America Great Again.
I'm with you.
Former IndyCar and NASCAR driver Danica Patrick on Finnerty. Everything she just said there just makes sense. Common sense, right? Pride in the country. She talked about that jacket that she had when she was a kid. When I was a little kid, I was a big fan of Evel Knievel. If you're old enough to remember Evel Knievel, he had the American flag on everything, which was part of what made him so cool, right? And yeah, when people are able to start affording stuff again and living well, then maybe they'll start coming around. One would think or hope. And listen to this.
Danica, I'm going to ask you a question, something you've never done before. Don't answer if you don't want to. Do you see politics in your future? Because I do.
Oh, wow. Well, first off, that's extremely flattering. Thank you very much for saying that. The funny thing is that possibly, that's definitely not a yes, but it's definitely not a no. I was asked at the very beginning of the year by Amaryllis, who was in charge of Bobby Kennedy's campaign. She contacted me and she said that her and Bobby had a great idea that I should run for Congress in Arizona for this election. And I listened to her, and I actually love to hear the fact that, you know, this originally was a job that was meant to be for someone to represent their area, represent their community, and that this isn't a career job. This is to truly be a representative of your town and of your city. So, and that not being in politics is actually more of an attribute than anything. And so I did say no, of course. But I have had quite a few different people come to me since the election was over with about running for Congress, running for governor here in Arizona. So there's been a lot of questions about that. And I guess what I'd say at this point in time is that anything that I do all the way, and I would want to do a really good job. And so I trust the advice of other people, but I'm pretty new. I'm pretty green to all this.
Danica Patrick, wow. If she ever does run, she may want to consider moving to another state first. Arizona is still counting votes, which is why we found out Republicans officially won 218 House seats last night. And Maricopa County Judge Bruce Cohen, presiding over the state's fake electors case, has recused himself after an email from him to other judges in support of Kamala Harris surfaced. At one point in the August email, Judge Cohen said that her ascension, Harris's ascension, was due to her exceptionalism. And he was taking offense with people that said she was a DEI hire, etc., etc. Secretary of State Antony Blinken still in Brussels, counting down his final days in office while attending NATO meetings. He just looks miserable, doesn't he? On Wall Street, markets opened slightly red again today after the Producer Price Index showed wholesale prices rising 0.2%. Excluding food and energy, core PPI rose 0.3%. That coming after yesterday's CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which showed similar numbers. So inflation is still on the rise. Thursday Night Football features an NFC matchup between the 7-2 Philadelphia Eagles and the 7-3 division rival Washington Commanders. I almost said Redskins in Philadelphia. And be sure to keep up with all of the latest developments and breaking news throughout the day and night on Newsmax, Newsmax 2, and at Newsmax.com. Make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus as well so you get the complete lineup of all your favorite shows, hosts, and guests. That's NewsmaxPlus.com. This is the Newsmax Daily. I'm Tony Marino. I thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax.